Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good day, everyone.
Good day.
Please confirm if you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you so much. You are all welcome. We welcome you warmly again to today's session. So today is 29th of April 2023. Last week, we were looking at working with aggregate functions, and we had our facilitator, Mr. Mfonwa, who took us through the journey on how to, do those aggregate functions. Today, we are going to a different topic. Today, we are going to be looking at grouping and filtering data. And we have an amazing speaker in the house. He's a seasoned facilitator. So I'm going to be introducing him very shortly. His name is Mr. Gabriel Onifade. He's a MCT Microsoft Certified Azure Data Scientist and Microsoft Certified Azure Data Engineer. Mr. Gabriel Onifade is a system engineer, Microsoft Certified Azure Data Engineer, and a data scientist who has facilitated and managed training that has impacted thousands of participants on digital skills in Africa and beyond. Gabriel was a guest speaker at the US-based CS for All International Community call in 2021, a presenter at the 2020 CSTA International Conference, and he also represents some US universities on data analysis and Python development career training in Nigeria. At the moment, Gabriel serves as the president of the US-based Computer Science Teachers Association, CSTA Nigeria chapter. Over the decades, Gabriel also had experience working on the data warehouse team of a bank, where he served as a member of the predictive data analysis team in 2020. The multi-talented Gabriel functions as senior academic officer and the solution architect for a startup he co-founded in 2015. Gabriel has got numerous training certifications from the Microsoft, IBM, SAP, Google, NC Lab, to mention but few. Brethren, please join me on this call to welcome Mr. Gabriel Onifade. Mr. Gabriel, good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon, Madam, our project manager. Thank you. Thank you for the
Thank you,
introduction.
sir. You're welcome. You're welcome. We are very grateful to have you today in our midst. So from now on, you'll be taking over. You have the floor. Please, you can carry on, sir. You're welcome.
Okay, thank
Can
you.
you please turn on your video so they can meet you physically? Although they've seen your picture. Except,
my video.
yes,
Okay.
sir. So that our
Okay.
participants will have the opportunity of meeting you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. It's good to see you.
All
But because of
right.
the network, I may have to turn on my video because of the network. So that.
No problem. Just greet our audience and then you can go ahead and
Okay.
turn on your video. Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Henny. Thank you. Yeah. Let me share my screen. Am I sharing my screen? Or you reshare it?
You can reshare it, sir.
Okay.
Although it seems I can see your screen, but you can reshare it.
Okay. Okay, so thank you, everyone. Hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, so thank you. So it's my pleasure to be your facilitator today. And I hope it will be a rewarding time. Interestingly, I shared a kind of funny video on the group that may suggest to us that we should not be too scared. We should also be prepared to answer questions. And I want to believe some of my bosses too will be joining in the class, so that when you have questions, you can post your questions in the chat. Okay, so we try as much to see how to support ourselves so that you can get the best from this session. So post your question in the chat. I'll try to finish earlier so that we can have time to attend to some of those questions. And also, I believe some of the moderator and some other experts supporting me here will also join us to answer some of the questions. Okay, so without further ado, I'll be going into my slide. It's just about 20-something slide. So basically, I may just like talking through, but I hope it will be a rewarding and an engaging time. And again, I will be sharing my code snippets. Before I continue, project manager, can you share the database, or you want me to share it from here so that those joining us for the first time can actually have a copy of the database that we are working with, and some of them may be working along as we go. So what do you advise? Yes.
We'll drop it on the chat, but if you have it handy, you can as well drop it on the chat, sir.
Okay. So
yeah,
let me try.
You can just,
I will try to.
Yes, you can just, you can just drop it on the chat.
Database.
But if
now,
that is going to take your time, we can do that for you, sir.
No, it should not take much time.
All right, sir.
So oh, it's supposed to be an attachment. Maybe you can just do that. You can do that. So I'll just.
All right, sir. You can go ahead.
Yeah.
We'll drop it on
share
the chat.
Share the database. So drop it there.
Yes, sir.
Maybe if I have a little time, I can also put this in the file share.
All right.
I also have a file for the code snippet that we'll be using. I will be copying and pasting in the chat. Then hopefully when I have time also, I can also or equally share the file. Okay,
yeah, you can share the file with us on the chat group, sir.
On the WhatsApp group.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, anyone. All right, thank you. Okay, so
yes.
This week, as it has been mentioned, we are treating Microsoft SQL Server. We also call it the T-SQL. If you are familiar with some of these, you know that the Oracle flavor is called PL-SQL. We have the PostgreSQL and the likes of them. So T-SQL is the Microsoft version of the SQL. Everything is all about the SQL, which is the structured query language, which is the standard for finding out information about your data in the database. And that, of course, is regulated by the RDBMS. So what I will advise, if today is your first time of joining this kind of session, or you are wondering where do you start from, you can do well by going to the previous videos of the previous 5 weeks. This is the 6th week. So you can go to those videos to have a better idea of how to have a better footing. So as we have mentioned again, we are taking Microsoft SQL Server. And we are talking about grouping data, filtering groups, grouping data, and filtering groups. our project manager, you may just meet people that you're not expecting, except you want them to talk in, so that we don't have too much of distraction. So
All
grouping
right, sir.
data
Thank you, sir.
and filtering groups. Is my slide moving? Okay. So again, welcome to week 6 of the Niger Data Platform on TSQL or Microsoft SQL. Last week, Mr. Ofon showed us how we can use some of the SQL aggregate functions. When you talk about aggregate functions, just think about your primary 4 arithmetics. You have average, you have sum, you have count. So how do you perform those basic functions on your data? Of course, your data is like a raw information that you need to process. So just like your mathematics, in that way, I may tell you, a man goes to the market with 15 naira, he bought 3 oranges and 2 mangoes. If 3 oranges cost 2 banana, how much is the man's change? So you want to find out, how do you analyze all those things? How do you make sense of such information? How do you take decisions? So you can find a minimum, maybe 4 men can do a particular work for 5 days. How many days will it take 2 men to do the same work? So those kind of a thing is what you can actually get comfortable with by using those aggregate functions. Even though the name, when you are calling aggregates, you may want to crack your teeth, but it just basically, it's all about finding the average of numbers, counting the highest or the lowest, the minimum, finding what is the highest, what's the lowest, and finding summation and all that. So I believe he also showed us that it's advisable to always include all non-aggregate columns from our select clause in our group by clause. Yes, that will look very confusing. This statement, I don't expect this statement to make sense to anybody who has not attended the class or who did not listen to him last week. Maybe some of us also may not really grab what the statement means. Now, maybe when we get to a code sample, you understand this better. Yes, that statement is telling us that if you have several columns, maybe first name, second name, and you have the salary of somebody, and then you have their age, and you wanted to find average of the salary. So you are performing your aggregate function on that salary column. So performing your aggregate function on the salary column, maybe you want to find the total sum of the money to be paid as salary or average salary of everybody. Every other column that is not affected by the aggregate function, like the first name, second name, they will appear in the group by clause at the bottom. Okay, and that in a way has explained what we are trying to do today. In fact, that is just one major part of what we are doing today. We are talking about the group by. So the group by works to support our aggregate function. Aggregate function will perform your average, your column, your sum, minimum on your column of interest, while every other column that is not affected by that aggregate function, they will appear in the group by clause. So every other column that is not affected by your aggregate function, they will show in your group by clause. We'll still talk more about this, and I hope you get to appreciate it better. In addition to that, he also mentioned that aggregate function, they are not acceptable in the where clause. So when you are writing your query and you are trying to give a condition, I want to see all the salary where the owner is a male or where the owner is a female manager. I want to be sure how much salary are they paying the female managers. So that is a condition you are putting into your query. Remember, We are talking about what? Structure query language. You are questioning the database. You want to get an information. So,
Hello, sir.
yes.
Sorry, we are seeing double screen. Can you just maybe zoom into one of the screens so we know which one you are demonstrating, so that it can be bigger for everyone to see?
Can you see
Okay.
this?
Yes.
Or better still, you can go to display setting and just click on duplicate so that it shows the main screen for us.
Is it showing the main screen now?
No, it's still
No,
showing
no,
double
no, no.
slides.
Yeah,
Showing the
it's
two
showing
screen.
double slide. Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry, I'm
So
not seeing that.
on top there, you can just under display setting, click on the drop down arrow and now duplicate your slides so that we just see one.
Is it fine now, please?
Yes, it's better.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay, so as I was saying, our group by clause is going to take care of every other column that is not affected by the aggregate function. Our group by clause works hand in hand as a support person for the aggregate function. So what we are doing this week is a continuation, or to elaborate more on what we have done last week, particularly last week, and of course, what we have done in the previous classes. So that is why I will expect, if the facilitators of the previous classes are on board, they can attend to your question, because my job here is a kind of easy job. I'm just here to play around, tell some story around what they have done. So I'm not really doing something so new. I just want to build on the foundation that they have laid in the previous classes. So first off, if you have not installed the SQL server, try to do that. You will see in one of the video, maybe the first week video. Then if you have not installed the database, I think the second week video, or so it may be the first week too, you can also have the database that will be shared with you. And most of what I'm doing is basically on that database, except some other one I will just explain, but I'm actually working on the database. So we are saying that what we are discussing today is to complement the aggregate function that we discussed last week. And what group by is going to do for you is to gather every other column that was not affected by your aggregate function. Now, in addition to that, Mr. Mofun also mentioned that aggregate function, they are not acceptable in the where clause. So when you are creating condition on your column, aggregate function are not allowed. You cannot say where sum equals to this. It doesn't work that way. Where column, where maximum equals to this, it doesn't work that way. However, there is a solution to that. Hence, the introduction of what? Having. The having clause is what we can use to perform aggregate function that we desire. Okay, so I believe when we see the examples, we get to appreciate this thing better. So after you are stated where, if you needed to do that in your and you want to do further aggregates, for instance, you have said find the average salary that is greater than so amount. So that is an additional further aggregate you want to perform on your function. Okay, so by saying find sum or find average, you have already performed an aggregate function, but you may want to perform further aggregation on that same column or some other column. So that will not be allowed in your where clause. That is why you will now rather use what? Having, so that you can use that to perform your aggregate function. So today we have mentioned, we'll be talking again about the group by clause and of course the having clause for further filtering of our data. Similarly, things can become complicated when case expression are combined with aggregate function. I don't know if some of you are familiar with the case function, or of course you will see it. You may want to perform a function. Why we use case when is that you may have different scenarios. People's salary, or let's say student grade from 90 to 100 is A plus, right? Or is it 85? Then from 70 can be B in some school systems. Now, maybe in our own system, from 70 and above is A. From 60 to 69, that is a B. From 59, from 50 to 59, that is a C. Then from 40 to 49, that is a D. So you are seeing different cases. That is a kind of, we are saying that if the student score is above 70, case when the student score is 70, make it an A. Case when the student score is 60 but below 70, make it a B. Case when you can have different cases like that on the same column, on the same data. You understand? So that is when we use case when. However, that case when can become complicated at some point. That is why the filter clause was introduced to make it simpler. However, filter, they work well with Postgres. I'm not seeing it work too much very well with Microsoft SQL. That is, however, the having clause we always perform the work of filter, but the filter clause actually is to help to reduce the complication of that we can come across in case when. Case when also is also that complicated. Case when can also be used to optimize some query like coalesce. So you might have come across this, or maybe we even mentioned this at some point before we closed. Hopefully we have the time. The coalesce function. Okay, so the coalesce function also is used to perform some optional selection. For instance, coalesce will help you to pick the first not null value. So you can have so many value that maybe a student score did not submit a report. So if a student did not submit, maybe a student has taken 10 subjects or 6 subjects to be average. The first one is null. He did not sit for the exam. Second one is null, but he wrote the third one. He did not take the first one. He took the fifth one. By the time you listed all those scores in a list, coalesce will help you to pick the first non or not null value in that list. I'm just trying to talk about, this is just an introduction, so don't get too confused. We are going to break everything down. And of course, we'll be talking about these things over and over. Hopefully, you will get used to it. So, performing filtering. Performing filtering values on an aggregate function is important practice. So today, let's learn how we can do further filtering by using the group, by using the having, and by using the filter. Also the case when for altering our values and what have you. So now, but before I continue, if we have actually downloaded the database and you try to structure it, maybe I should share my database to show you what I'm talking about. Oh, let me stop sharing this. So that it doesn't look too vague. Can we see my screen, please? My MS Studio. Can we confirm we can see MS Studio?
Yes, we can see your screen, sir.
Okay. Now, if you have downloaded the database, you come to this by your left-hand side. on my own, you are seeing Adventure Works 2019, and you are seeing the movie database. So the movie database is what we are working with, okay? Now, when you expand that, you are going to see database, to see tables. You can expand the table to see the tables we are working with. The tables in that database, they are the actor, certificate, country, director, film, genre, language, role, and studio. If you expand the database diagram, for you, it may be empty. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is for me.
So now you right click that. You do what? Create new database diagram. And then you select everything there. Okay. And then you add. You may not select everything. So I want us to have, you know, so you can see. So that I want us, because I said we are working with this database, it is good we understand that database so that you can understand the structure and properly understand how to work with it. I'm not sure if we went through designing a database or whatever, but I have just tried to rearrange the database so we can to save our time. You can try to do the same on your own and then you save it. So I can see here my theme table. These are the tables now. The film table has almost everything. I have my film directors table. I have the role ID table. I have the actors table. And then the studio, there are just two columns. I believe in the last class, we have queried some of this database. From my left-hand side, I can right-click my film table and I select top 100 rows. Of course, that will give me a sample query to show me everything in that table, everything in column. And so today we are querying this table, okay? So, and I can also look at this actor table. The actor table has just 5 columns, the actor ID, file name, and all that. I can also see my film director table. And I see here that's also like 6 column, you know, male or female and all that. So there are so many interesting stuff we can really do with this table. And that is why I felt it is good that we rearrange or understand the structure of the table. So every table has a primary key. The primary key are the ones having a key icon in front of them. And then you have our secondary key, okay? So, and we see how each of those primary key, they become a secondary key in another table and how they link. And we can also see our relationship here. You can see this one is what? One to many. That means a director can direct what? Many film. And we'll see a studio also. A studio can also what? You know, carry out or perform many films. So that is just, if you have your time, play with the data structure to understand it, and then you can question it in the way you want. Another point we should note at the back of our mind, that this table or this database is not really optimized for this purpose. It still needs some restructuring, because we can see here our actor. You know, what if an actor is also a director? Okay, so an actor can be a director, and so that means we are supposed to have a person table separate, you know. But then let's still look at this, and we can. I just want us to appreciate this, because that is what we'll be using for our query or our aggregate analysis, and to explain what exactly we are talking about today. I'll stop sharing that and I'll go back into my slide. Can you see my slide, please? Hello?
Yes, sir, we
Yes.
can see it.
Yes, we can see your slide, sir.
Okay, thank you. It's me that is not seeing it. Okay, it's not shared, Abby.
It's shared. We can see your slide.
I think I stopped sharing. Okay.
Okay, you can reshare it then.
Okay, can you see it?
But we can see your slide.
The big slide now,
Yes, the big slide.
not the dual one.
Actually, you are not on the display side. You can click this big up so that it can come up on a displayed one.
Can you see it now?
You can go ahead, sir, so we don't waste time with it.
Okay.
We are
Okay.
seeing your slide.
Is it the two slides you are seeing or just the big one?
The slide with your PowerPoint at the side.
With the
That's
presenter view. Okay.
not the
We are also seeing the
presenter
presenter.
view. Yeah, so
Okay.
you need to go to the presenter view maybe so that it can be bigger.
Okay, let me stop and share just that. Are you seeing the presenter view or the two now?
It's the two now that we are seeing. Go back to the first one and just continue. I think we can make do with that, sir. We can make do with that. This one is pretty small.
Yeah, let's try to make it right because by the
let
time
me
we are
start.
sharing, yes,
Let me start
by the
again,
time we
break.
are sharing code, yes, I'm with you. By the
Okay,
time we are
sorry.
sharing code, it will be smaller. Which one are you seeing now?
Yes, we
The
are seeing the full screen. Yes, the presentation slide. So you can now continue, sir.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
So I have just shown us how we arrive at this. So the essence of doing this is for us to have a better insight or a better understanding into what we are doing and how the structure of the table. So you also can come up with so many questions so that I can understand your table properly. And before I continue, let me just go back to our group chat again. So earlier this week, somebody asked a question and he was trying to perform some aggregate function. So because the table is not so optimized, you may not really get the best. But what I try to do is I think you can do this. I think that question, if the person is on the chat, I think he was asking, he wanted to see the maximum certificate ID and the minimum certificate ID for each of the countries. Can anybody confirm that?
Yes, the person is on the chat. That's what I wanted to see.
Oh, fantastic. So this is just one of the options you can use to, but since we are getting a closer look at the table, you can understand it better as well. So let's continue. So from the last week again on aggregate function, the presenter tried to show us how do we get I think what we postulated that time was that the artists with the highest number of movie, they could be qualified for Oscar award. I don't know. Do we just keep talking so that I will share the script later? Or some of you want to be working with the script so that I can just take time to share the file so that you can be copying before we continue.
Mr. Gabriel, I think you can really go into the demo so that they can have a feel of what you are trying to say theoretically.
So it will be okay. Let me share the file with you.
You can share the file, but then let's go into demo so that they are also on their laptop, everyone on this call, so they can be following and not just looking at the theory.
What I'm saying is that okay, let me share the file with you. So anybody that wants to practice as I'm explaining will be able to do that. Maybe that will help us. So that
all right,
it's not be like just talking through.
All right.
Let me do that. Okay, I will just drop that on WhatsApp for everybody to see. Mm. Okay, so what I've just done is to share with you on WhatsApp um, the scripts, the snippets for the code I'm displaying to you. So you can copy it, run it, and you can have a feel of what I'm talking about. Can you confirm? Are you still seeing my slide?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can see your slide.
The big slide, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so last week we proposed or we suggested or we postulated that the directors with the who has directed the highest number of movie can be qualified for the Oscar award. And so this query, I believe you'll see that from last week. We say having, you can see, select the name. That's from that I believe you understand that last week. This B represent the table that we can see here in 1, 2, 3, 4 in line 4, that the movies database objects director as B. So that B is representing the table I'm working with. I'm now saying from the director table, pick the full name of the director. And then A, the movie table. I say that one is A. From A table, pick the director ID, because that is where all the films are. And on that table, each of the film, they listed the name of the director. So if you can count the number of directors, that handle the particular movie, from there you can know how many movie that director has actually directed. So if you run this query, you will see what we have on our right hand side. Does that make sense to us, please? Can we confirm we have gotten the script snippets, anybody, and the database?
Yes, we have it.
All right, thank you. So you can just run it to have a feel of what, and you can play with it since you understand the database structure also. Again, talking about the group by clause. So at the introduction, I've mentioned to us what we actually want to do by the group by. We said the group by clause is used in conjunction with the aggregate function. Is it count? Is it sum average? To group all the results. Okay. So example, the following query calculates the cumulative score, CGPA, for each student. It displays two columns, the course ID and the CGPA. So at the end, it ordered the results by the course ID. So the group by help to order, to rearrange the results. So, and that query simply can be select the course ID, comma, then sum the score of that student, which is what? The CGPA of that student. Okay? From Nigeria, so you group by course ID. Of course, you can also order it by the course ID to know based on the courses and the students' stuff. Again, talking about the group by and the filter, we want to have better insights. We want to understand our database, our data better. So talking about the group by clause, we said the group by clause enables you to use the aggregate function on groups of data returned from the query. Okay, because to perform your aggregate, it will now bring all of them. Either the ones you have calculated, the ones you not calculate, all of them will be coming anyhow like that. Group by will now say, hey, wait. You are the one that has performed aggregate. You are your own. Otola here, you are separate. Stay here. The other ones that are just associates, oh yeah, we arrange them. Okay, so that is what the group by will do. Now, filter is a modifier used on an aggregate function to limit the values used in the aggregation. Now, after you have found the total sum or the average, you say, hey, wait, we want to filter further. How many of you are greater than 50 or particular condition? So filter will help because you cannot be using that condition in the where clause. It's not acceptable. But you can use filter. In fact, you can use more than one filter. Okay? And you can use having clause to further understand your table, to drill down further, and to perform further aggregation on your return data. So you use the group by clause. So if we wanted to know the average budget of the director of the movie with the Oscar award, okay? So we said this director, they have directed some movie, and some of their actors, they have won the Oscar award. I say, okay, how many movies has this director, what does it even cost this director to perform that movie to the point that their actors can win the Oscar award? So I believe you have the snippets from the director table. We join it on the film table, and of course, director ID and full name. So here we are seeing the budget of those directors. So if you go again to the structure, you can think of different ways to play with your data to have better insights on your data. Now, again, we can get more insight into this table. Now, the two tables up ahead before. Okay, here, the first one from last week, we wanted to know the number of movies that those directors have carried out. Okay, this week we said, okay, let us know what is the budget, how much have they spent. Okay, and that's okay. Is there a relationship between this money they have spent compared to what the budget? Because if you look at this budget now, we see that this Steven Spielberg, he has done 25 movies. Okay, we need to find out, even he has done so many movies. Some have done just 10. Tim Burton has done just 11. This one has done 12. Does it mean that as he has done many movies, he's going to produce Oscar award winner? Okay, let us see. Is there a relationship between that and the money he has spent? Now say, come on, that guy, he did so many movies, and the movie they are just very cheap. Okay. However, somebody like Tim Burton has done just 11 movies, and this guy, he has spent what, $93 million to perform less than half of what our guy that did so many movies have done. Is this guy wasteful? Is it okay? Does it mean that if he has spent a lot of money, he's going to produce Oscar award winner? Okay, so we are trying to get insight into our data, understanding database better. So, okay, let us combine the two tables. And what I've done is to now capture that first table and make it a subquery. It's like a table on its own. We are selecting from it and we are comparing it with the other table so I can know, okay, the number of movies and the budget, they are not really. So the guy that's done 25 movies, he has only spent 58 million. And the guy that has done less than half of that, he has spent almost double of that. And this guy, has he produced Oscar award winner, even with the, is it by spending so much money, you get Oscar award winner, or by producing so much movie at a lesser budget, you get Oscar award winner? So this is one way. I will see here, we are using the having clause that we have introduced earlier. Okay, so we are trying to filter into our data and then to understand things better. So however, let's try to ascertain again. Let's take another approach. The one we did was based on our postulation that if the guy has done a lot of movie, then the guy is probably producing Oscar award winner. We are not sure. We now say, okay, does it tally if the guy has spent a lot of money? So that gives us concern. This guy that has do a lot of movie, he not spend so much money. That means there may be something to getting Oscar award winners. Okay, let's go into the real table. The film table actually stated who are those that won Oscar award. So going to that table, we now move that, we join the movie table, okay, to the movie director, and we specify, we now say who are those, we say order by what Oscar, we now separated the Oscar award winner, only for us to realize that none of them, the one that spent the most money, he did not produce any Oscar award winner. The one that did the highest movie, he did not produce any Oscar award winner. But just this simple guy that spent average money, okay, that has produced what? Oscar award winner. So this query can also help us to have better insight to filter down into our table. Say, okay, those people that are Oscar award winner, which of them has the highest? And what movie did he produce? Okay, so what we are now doing here is that we want to know actual actor that won the highest Oscar award. And we see that the person's director has only done 11 movies, and the person's director, the director is a David Silverman. We see that David Silverman has actually produced 2 different Oscar award winners. You see, David has been winning Goliath long time ago without making noise. Okay, so this guy, he did not spend too much, 72 million, and in that 72 million, and he has only directed 11 movies, he has produced 2 separate Oscar award winners. Okay, so this query can help us to understand, to have an insight into such data. So we are saying that group by is one thing that we can use to actually achieve all this. And we have mentioned that filter will, because if case when is becoming complex, filter can help us to actually simplify things. Apart from that, we can use more than one filter on the same on that aggregate. Unlike where clause, it may just appear once, except we are using it in a subquery. So filter clause is designed to filter values in aggregate function. Now compare a query with the case expression, okay, in the sum. Let's look at this. We are saying these students that we have found out their score, where are they from? Have they ever lived in the capital city? Does that affect their results? Is it that they live in Abuja or they live in Lagos? How many of them are living in Abuja and Lagos? Let's see. Yes, okay. Case when that student, I want to know how many of these students have been to Lagos or live in Lagos, or how many of these students are in Abuja. So in that table, we now look at their address and look at the city column. So in that city column, see what? When city is Lagos, case when city is Lagos, then count 1. So we are summing every cases of occurrence of Lagos as a city. By the time you sum all that, you are going to know how many students are Lagosian. Case when that person is from Abuja, how many of them? Case when will help us. Just in case again, if they are not from Lagos, they are not from Abuja. Case when they are not in, we cannot see a list, not in Lagos or Abuja. It's okay, count 1. You see all those 1, but if it's not, it should be 0. So count them and sum them together. So this is an example of where we use the case when. And then filter, we said it will help you to simplify if case when is becoming more complex. And I told you we can use more than one filter in the same condition. So we see select count this filter where, okay, it's always be city. City is Lagos. Okay, you count that. Where city is Abuja, you count that. So like that. So filter can help us to simplify that. Also, filter clause is followed by the keyword where and a condition. So when you see filter, take note of how to put filter. Filter where put the condition either greater than or less than Lagos, then you specify. So that's how we use the filter. And I've mentioned to us, I've not seen so much usage of this filter in Microsoft SQL, but it's actually more applicable in Postgres SQL. So you may try this, it may not really work for you, but it's better to use the having condition. But I want us to understand when we hear the word filter, how do we use it if it is allowed? If you want to refine your query even more by running further aggregates against limited set of values, you can use the filter keyword. As we saw in the aggregate function section, where is also limit. You can limit the value with the filter function, okay? And because you cannot use filter with the where clause, so filter can be used for further aggregation. Then you may want to know how many Oscar winner award have greater than 10 movie. So here we can see how we use the filter, count the director, count director's ID, that is the current of the movie, where that count is greater than 10. Okay, so we can see here, even though we have done aggregation, we now want to what? Filter, do further aggregation on that. So in this case, we are using the filter clause. Now, we are going to the having clause, which I think is better for us to use in Microsoft SQL. The keyword having is used to filter the result of group by clause. So group by help us to further aggregate our aggregate function. However, the having clause will help you to have a better filter. You want to go further into it. So we need to take note that the where clause applies to every role. And then aggregate function, count, mean, mark, sum, average, they are not allowed in the where clause. We have mentioned that over and over. So an example is to display the score of students that's above 3.5 CGPA. And then we can see that here. Okay, so this is one way to do that. Again, having is used with aggregate to filter out results returned by the aggregation. It is similar to where, except that where removes value from the aggregate function, and then filter removes value after the aggregation. So where is a general condition on the table, remove all those values, but you want to now do further aggregation, you will use having function. So we need to note that all the filtering, having, group by, or filter can all be used together in the same query to focus on the results that we want to achieve. So I mentioned there's something we call coalesce. Now, the coalesce, I think I have 5 minutes left. Project manager, how many minutes more? Project manager, how many minutes do I have more? Is it 5 minutes?
I think, yeah, you have 4 more minutes to wrap up so that you can go into question and answer. Yes, sir. Hello, sir. Hello.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I said, so you have 4 more minutes to wrap up.
Okay.
So they can ask their questions, sir.
All right, thanks. Now, welcome, so again, I said you can also post your question in the chat so it will be easier to pick them up. Now, coalesce, as we mentioned, evaluates the arguments in order and returns the current value of the first expression that initially doesn't evaluate to null. So if you have, look at this example now. First one in the list, select, we say coalesce. They are saying that look for the first value that is not null. The first one, student did not write exam, no result. Second one, no result. If you just go to the first one that is not null, that have result. Okay, so that is what coalesce function. So depending on the condition of that statement, because not all the value may satisfy the condition. So coalesce will help you to pick the first value that satisfies the condition that you are looking for. So the third one will be released will be returned in this case because the third value is the first value that is not null. The qualis expression is syntactic shortcut for the case expression. So qualis is just like case when. Here we are saying case when is none, case when is none. When it's not null, pick it. Okay, so qualis is just like shortcut to performing what? Our case when. So I believe when we hear the word qualis now, we are a bit comfortable with that. So when you look at case when, we have discussed this earlier. Case when is this, so that is that. So and we also see, looking at that qualis expression, it's like case when the expression is not null, then the expression one. You understand? So you can break down, optimize that qualis, and it becomes a case when expression. So below is an example of how qualis select the data from the first. We have mentioned that earlier. Select name, class, color, product name. So class, color, product name as the first not null. So we see, so anyone that is not null in the list is the first that qualis will pick from the table. Again, before I finally wrap up, at the earlier time of this group, somebody also asked a question. I'll read the question here. He's saying that management is interested to know which hour of the day the registration on AB company has been highest. So they're interested to know if user registration is higher from 9 p.m. to 5 p.m. or after 5 p.m. Okay, so I think I tried to respond then, and I sent some response. Again, this is the rest. I believe this can apply to it. So this is one way you can drill down to know what particular time of the day, you want to have better insight into your data. So in that case, you can use substring. I say can use substring. You can cast the date entry as a date, okay, as a text. Then use substring to now slice. Here we are saying pick from what? The first one to number 4. But I think this is for PostgreSQL because in SQL it will be comma, not for. So if you try this, it will give you an error, but this is more appropriate to PostgreSQL. Now, but the reason why I sent this was that we can adopt this approach to solve some other questions. So let's try to adopt that. Let's try to confirm in what aggregation or in century were the best years of the actors that won Oscar award. Okay, so we are saying case when date of birth is having like 1990, 1960 something. If date of birth is having like something like 1970 something, okay, this guy was born in the 70s. So if you run that query, we see that the Oscar award winner, he was actually born in the 60s. Okay, so this is another way can, okay, that was, is he a Gen Z person that won Oscar award, or is he somebody of the old generation? So the person was born in the 60s. Again, you can see adopt that condition of case when, or this year I'm even using date parts here now. So let's try again to know the birth month. Let's say, okay, even though you have not won Oscar award, you have done a lot of movies, and again, you have also spent a lot of budget. Let us know your birth month so that we can celebrate you on your birthday. Or in a class, we want to know how many of them is this particular birth month, because the date will be casted like a long string. Okay, we can use this. So date part for year, okay, select year of birth, date of birth. If you run that also, I've given you sample query, you can see from our output, we are seeing the year of birth, the month of birth. So you can see who are those born in December, bring them together. So this director, our Oscar award winner director, was born in December, so we can celebrate him in December. Some other one are born in November, so we can know time to celebrate people, how to attend to our customer. And so what we're just trying to do is that all this filtering will help us to have better insight to our data. Now, after you have done all that, run that query, it will give you what we call your data sets. So with that data set, you can connect your Power BI, and Power BI will help you to do better visualization and save you a lot of too much work or possibly guesswork. So you can use Power BI to do your visualization. I don't know if Project Manager will have another session for you to be able to practice, but this is one thing. This is what your management, your business user, this is what they want to see. They are not interested about all those your query. They want to see results. Show me results. And Power BI is a Microsoft tool that can really help you to interact with your data and to have better visualization on your data. So thank you for your time. So, and I said again, so instead of question now, so I'm the one having question for you now. So task for you, go and use Power BI to have an insight into your data. So thank you for your time. If there are questions, I believe the project manager can take over now.
Thank you very much, sir, Mr. Gabriel. Thank you. It's been a great time, a great insight listening to you. Some of the comments on the chat says that they would have had a better, it would have been better if all these are practically explained. So they actually had wanted a practical session, but never mind. We'll provide a practical session for this week, next week. So, but with what you have received today, I think you can go and leverage on that. And then if you have questions or you meet up with challenges while applying the case, the qualities as he has taught us today, then you can post it on the chat. And when we meet next week, we are going to take it up from there. We start from the practical session of today before going into the business of the day. But if you have further questions for Mr. Gabriel before he leaves, you can please raise up your hand and ask your question. Okay, fine. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for coming. And
I can still run some of those stuff. Are we done, or do you have some minutes? But this is, I think we can just run those tables.
We have like 12 minutes. So if you want to do demo, you can please go ahead. On a practical session.
Yeah, the
snippets. So that they can have a feel of what you are talking about, sir.
Okay, the snippets that I have shared with you. Hello,
sir, Mr.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, Oyinda has a question. Oyinda, please go ahead.
Okay, good evening, sir. Good
evening.
Sorry, I actually want to ask a question based on this particular page. Sorry, you've shifted the page. I want to ask, is that a data modeling, or should we call that schema? Or what should we call data defining?
Just a schema. Just a schema, yes.
And how can we achieve this?
I think I tried to show you. Is it to design it now or
yes,
to draw it?
I know that you're trying to join the table now. That's how you join the table,
have
right?
been joined. Yeah. You have to create table, and then you now show the relationship between tables. But you can see from this. Directors. So there are relationships between the tables. So this is just to show the relationship between the tables. Okay, I'm just saying we need to understand better how it works. So for the ones that I believe you have this the snippets. For the first one that we shared, you can just select this and you run it. I'm going to connect my database, and then okay, I selected two. So this is the first one to show the highest country, the country ID, the maximum certificate ID, and the lowest for the country. And then the query we ran last week, we want to know if they can be nominated for Oscar Award based on the number of movies that they have done. So in this case, we have tried to say, let us count how many movies have been based on the ID of the movie directors. We count that, and then of course we limited this to those people that have directed more than 10 movies, as you can see in the filter or the having condition that we have on this query. So the same thing, we went further let us see the budget that is spent for those people who has done more than 10 movies. Because if you look at the movie, there are more than 1,000. But we need to drill down, and it's over the years from 18 something to 1998 or thereabout. Okay, so we see that okay, some people have spent like $3,000, $1 million. So that query will help. I believe you have that to look at how we apply the having condition to have that insight. And we said, okay, let us group. So what we did is I can see this query is a subquery. In fact, we have like two subquery here. We join with one subquery. Okay, if we run this, we say we have two of them. This is the one that has director ID and the budget. We have another subquery here, which is our table. That we say select join with this table. Okay, we see another one here. I think I can increase my font. Should I increase my font? Tools.
Yes, you can increase it to maybe.
That's view, Abby.
No. From where you are underneath, you can just increase it to
okay
from 100% to something 200.
Okay. Does it make sense?
Yes,
does it
it
make
makes
sense?
sense. Yes, it does.
Okay.
And
I'll make it bigger.
okay, you can still make it bigger. Oida is asking that the design that is shown, is it on MS SQL, right? Asking whether it's on MS SQL.
It's looking to be. Let's do. Everything is on MS. What we are discussing MS SQL.
MS SQL. Okay. Sherman hand is up. Sherman, please go ahead with your question.
All right. Thank you, thank you, Mr. Gabriel.
Yes.
I wanted to make a suggestion.
Okay.
Is it possible for us to run a new query from start to finish so that we can follow the thought process? Because I think that's the main thing we actually trying to get from, because the query you're already showing us, you have already come up with it, but we want to see like the thought process. Okay, after this, what next, and how do we get to the next one? So if we can just run, even if it's just one, from start to finish, so that we understand the thought process behind it.
Okay, now that I'm trying to do to like explain the thought process, because now instead of just typing, because if we are typing, it's the same thing we'll be typing, and the time may not be on our side. But I'm trying to explain. Okay, let me just show one of them, like the one we did last week. We said that from. Okay, let me just show this one, if that makes you, if that's feel better. Now we said select. We can select. We are even saying selecting distinct. Because if you just selected, you may have so many of them. We are selecting countries now. We are using distinct here because we want to see all the countries. I want to see the maximum certificate ID and the minimum certificate ID. So we are picking from this table, movie table. This is movie table. I don't know. I'm just thinking it will be like going back and forth and maybe looking more confusing. But we are picking from, we are picking from movie table. Let me show you on the movie table now. On the movie table, select the top 1,000. We see we have the film ID, the title, the release date, director ID, studio ID, review, people's review, maybe on the website on that, the country ID, language, genre, the time of the movie, certificate ID of the movie, budget spent on the movie, box office, and etc. Somebody is saying he wants to know the countries that have the highest certificate ID, okay, and the ones with the lowest certificate ID. He wants to compare highest certificate and the lowest certificate ID from each of the country. And I say, okay, if that's the case, we can pick country. If you look at our diagram, where is that our model diagram now? Now we see this film ID, it has country, okay? And then which other one has country again? Then we also see, we have the country table actually, okay? So you say you want to know which
country.
We have the country table, and that country table, it has a primary key, country ID, which is a secondary key on this film ID. So I say, okay, from that country table, okay, let us pick the column country. Let us run the country table. Looking at it, that's just two columns, the country ID and the name of the country. So we now pick what is the country ID. the country name, which is just country from what we ran just now. Just say country is the name of the column. So we say pick country. From this country table, we call it as B. So from B, pick column country, okay? Then from film table, the first one we saw, this film table, pick what? The film. We pick the country ID, country name here. We have already joined the country ID here with the country. We can pick any of them actually. We just say, let's pick the one here. Now see, because it is on that certificate, I think we have certificate table too, which we join to it. Because it's asking about certificate ID. So there's a certificate table. It has certificate ID, and that also, that's why I try to bring out this thing. So that certificate also has a secondary key on the, and it's one to many. That means one certificate can be used for many movies. So we also pick that from the certificate table. Okay, so when I say find the maximum of those certificates, of course, in your group by, you are grouping by country and by country ID. So, okay, so since that is the grouping, maximum of all that in that group of that name of that country. If the country is China or Nigeria, it will group everything from China together and pick the maximum of them. If I would call it mass certificate ID, if it's US or minimum of that. So we say pick the country, pick this, pick that. From this film table, we join it to the what? Country table. And we see that on that country table, it is on this country table, it has country ID, country ID. So country ID is here, country ID is there. We are joining these two tables on the country ID. That's why I try to push this to show us the diagram. So we are joining this on the country ID, okay? A is the film ID, this is country ID. So we are joining this country ID here, country ID here. Join again to what? Movie table. And when you see join, it actually means left join, but that's the default join. So you are joining to the left. Now, we now look at the movie table. Now, I try to explain this fully qualified because at times you may have to specify use movie database, but in case you may be seeing error. That's why I say, let me use fully qualified name. That from movies database objects, select join. We also look for certificates. Join on certificate ID, okay? And certificates ID, we call that certificate table C. And it has certificates ID, and the film also has what? Certificates ID. Look at our certificates table. Certificates ID here is primary key here, and certificates ID is also here. So it is joining this on this certificates ID here. So we have joined the three tables together and grouped them. So when we run this now, we are seeing what? The country name, the country ID, maximum certificate ID that we expected, and also the minimum certificate ID. The same approach goes to every other thing. I was trying to explain this one. Instead of having table that we saw here, I selected out some table and I call it my subquery. This is a table on its own. I ran it and I call it table V. That's what I'm picking from V. Select something, something. If I run this one, look at it. Only the director ID. Now I have another table here. I have group by director ID. I run it. That's what average budget based on the director ID. I have done this so I can avoid what we call Cartesian join. So that's a table. This is a table. So another table. So about 4 tables have been joined here to achieve my goal. So I now run this, and then I'm able to see director ID, their full names, the number of movies they have produced, and the budget they have spent. And we have done further insight to see that it is actually this guy, Totten Button, spent the highest, but he did lesser movie. But somebody here that is not even on the list was the one that won Oscar award. I don't know if we still have time. So just try, look at it based on, I don't know, Choma, am I able to attend to you a bit?
Yes, it's much better now. But I have
So
one more question. This thing, that select this thing, this thing, is it just affecting the very first select or everything on that select?
everything. Select is the beginning. That's why I said that analysis by select. You just do select. You are selecting from this table, pick this column, go to another table, join this column. So you are bringing everything together to form a data set that you now use to plot your graph or Power BI to produce your reports. So there are many tables: customer table, product table, inventory table, so many tables in the HR table. But you may not need all the information at the same time. So the query language will help you to pick the relevant column, and you can perform aggregate on those columns so that you can have your desired results. The essence for you to produce a report that is relevant to your business at a point in time. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
So my question is this: the distance, is it just
Okay,
affecting? So
okay,
like
now
that,
we use
yeah,
no, we use distance in that table because if we select without distance, we have so many countries that have
yeah.
so many country IDs. So that's okay. Select individual country, not all of them, because there are so many. Let's try to remove that and see what will happen. You can see we have 19 rows, okay? And in that, we see some of them, they are repeated like that. That's okay. Select individual country that have this and this and that and that. So that select this is to say, instead of picking some of them that have more than 2 occurrence, select distinct occurrence of each of them.
Okay. So basically, it's affecting just the country in this case now.
Just the
For that
country,
be,
yes.
yeah. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Thank
just
you.
the country. Just the country.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So can we sign off?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. And thank you,
You're welcome.
everyone. Thank you for coming, and I'm sure you enjoy your time.
Hello,
Next
sir.
week, hello, is
Hello,
that
sorry, I
Chioma?
just want to... No, this is Kemi.
Okay,
Okay.
Kemi, please go ahead.
Sorry, please, on the movie diagram that you have, when I was
Yeah.
trying to create mine, it's not giving me the same, like yours. I went
That's
to the
why
diagram, understand
it's
movies. So am I supposed to have exactly like your diagram
no,
or
no, no, no,
something
no, no,
else?
no. It's for you to understand it. So I'm saying that if you want to, what you are doing is very valid. Okay, you are not doing anything that is wrong. It takes time. That's why I try to save us the time that we don't need to be doing all that all over here. You get my point? So if you look at this again, so I can just right click it and I do the diagram. I select all of them like I advise. So you have to be doing, I can close it. I start to be dragging and dragging and arrange and arrange. And I feel that can take us a lot of time. Okay. So you can, based on your intuition, okay. So that's that's why I just try to do that to simplify it for us.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, everyone. I think we are going to sign off at this point. Our time is fast spent. For further questions and queries, please let's drop them on the main chat group, and we have our facilitators on the WhatsApp group, and then they will attend to us, and some other experts on the group, they will attend to us. Next week, we shall be looking at, let me just share my slide very briefly, so you have a feel of what we are looking at next week. So next week we shall be looking at working with subqueries. I think somebody's asking on subqueries. So next week we
Thank you
shall be
very much.
looking at working on subqueries. So I know that you don't want to miss that. So I would like you to join us again same time next week, so that we can continue on this journey of SQL till we come to the end of it. We want everyone to be part of it. So thank you very much. And on this note, we are saying goodbye. Have a blessed weekend, and keep dropping your questions, your queries on the chats. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Goodbye.